The idea is the bank is doing a strategic review of the port sector, and we have launched in preparation for this two studies, one on the physical characteristics and the traffic dimensions of the port sector, how traffic is growing, etc., and the other on the institutional policy regulatory framework. These two consultant teams are the main players in this stakeholder workshop, and what we would like to see is how you react to some of the recommendations, suggestions that they are making, and the projections for future traffic, etc. Now there is a bank mission who are seated at the back there, who are participants in the workshop, but their main role is to hear what you have to say about these things rather than to be actually saying things themselves. They're in a mode of finding out, learning, and then eventually the bank will come out with a report. I know some of you have asked for a handout, but we thought we shouldn't do that at this stage because eventually when the bank report comes out, if you've left your business cards, we'd be happy to send you the report. So let me stop with that essentially, but as far as the organization, there's going to be two presentations, each followed by a discussion session, one on each of those topics. It would be efficient, I think, if we don't interrupt the presentations, just hold our questions to the end. Mr. Anjan Mukherjee will actually facilitate the question and answer session, and he'll try and maintain that process. Finally, just one word. What are we hoping for from this workshop? I'm sure a lot of you will react to these views about the port sector and express what your problems are and the problems you face in working in the sector. But also important is that we get to hear from you what your future, what your vision is for the future that you'd like to see created in the sector. That is probably the most important thrust of our work, is to set out in our own minds and in the minds of the community that works in the sector, what is the vision that we want to create in the port sector for India. We stop there and hand it off to Mr. Ramesh Singhal, who's leading the team on the first module, that is the port capacity, traffic, those aspects of the studies. He'll take you through his presentation. Let me stop there.
Thank you, George. Good afternoon, friends. As George has already explained you that today we are going to discuss two presentations, and each of the presentation will be followed by a question and answer session. So what I would request is all of you to raise as many issues as you think are necessary. Please understand, based on this workshop, the sector's strategy will be decided by the World Bank, and that's what they're going to present to the government. And as you know, these things make a lot of difference while deciding the overall policy framework for the government. So it is important that all of us we participate in whatever is happening and we take the process forward. But before I really come down to our presentation on demand and supply assessment, I would like to first, this is of course George has already introduced. There are a whole lot of stakeholders here, and the consultants for the module 1, which is basically the demand supply assessment. I-Maritime Consulting and Indian Port Association has done the work, while for module 2, which is primarily relating to the regulations and the financing aspect of the sector, it is Feedback Ventures and IDFC who will be presenting and who have done that module. And there is a World Bank mission sitting here. Now, before we go forward, we were being asked to, get all the stakeholders here. Now, we thought, who are the stakeholders in this port sector? Of course, the first name which comes is the port developers, there are a whole lot of entrepreneurs, promoters, large shippers, users. Interestingly, there are many other different. We've been working with many clients, and what we're realizing now is there are different kind of people who are coming to port sector. There are people who are in real estate, they are looking at ports as an opportunity. People who have large industrial establishment, they are coming to ports. People who are port companies internationally, and they are coming to India and they are trying to develop the port. So this port developer is a sort of a is much bigger than what one traditionally believes. Then of course the government, the regulators, which basically represent the aspiration of the people, society's issues. The government in India, the port sector is governed both at the central level, the federal level, and at the state level. So it's a very relatively complex way that the port sector is managed in India. Of course, Module 2 consultants will dwell more on their issues and how they really affect the port sector. Another category of stakeholders are the financiers, and many of the financiers today are coming along with the promoters and the developers to assess the risk and provide capital, both equity and debt. And they are the ones who really push the sector, and at times they accelerate and catalyze the development in the sector. Of course, people who are dependent on the sector, either as employees, labor, managers. At the same time, we felt that the direct users, customers of the ports are again a very big stakeholder. Some of them also come as developers, and there are many indirect users. Interestingly, many port projects today are packaged along with shipbuilding, SEZs, real estate development. So port is just not port. You know, there is a whole lot of infrastructure development which takes around it. If you look at countries' key ports, major ports during time of independence, which is Calcutta, Chennai, and Mumbai, they have become fairly big in terms of cities, industrial development, and real estate. So ports are expected to have a lot of externalities, which make a large number of people as the stakeholders. Then, of course, we have environmentalists, NGOs, international bodies, self-interest groups. They provide, they represent the things which are not directly represented by anybody else. Why we are here? We are here to really develop a growth strategy for port, which is encompassing. Encompassing means all the stakeholders need to be taken into consideration. It should be collectively reinforcing. It has happened in so many projects where certain stakeholders are neglected, especially the port development where fishermen who are affected by these developments. There could be people whose livelihoods are affected, who have gone into rehabilitation. If those issues are not taken into consideration, environment is a major concern. So these also, we need to have a strategy which is just not growth, pure growth oriented, which should be encompassing, looking at the whole lot of people which are affected by the development of the sector. And the task is to minimize conflict, create cooperation amongst stakeholders. So the idea of coming together, discussing these issues, is to sort out a few of these things. Along with some of the literature that we've distributed, we have also given a book by R.M. Lala. It's a creation of wealth. It's a book on House of Tatas, and we felt that in India, Tatas have really created wealth and created growth by taking multiple stakeholders along with them, and that if you go through that book, you'll really appreciate how the growth of either a corporate entity or a sector could happen through a collective enterprise where multiple stakeholders are taken into consideration. Yeah, these are some of the quotations which are there on the wealth creation. We feel that the development of the port could create wealth for the nation. Once I made a presentation to the minister, shipping minister, Mr. Jaitley, sometime back, and said, why we can't have 12 Singapores in India? Why each port cannot act as a nodal agency for the development in the sector? So it's possible to do that, taking the various stakeholders into consideration. Now I'll come to our main presentation.